Welcome to What You Don't Know You Don't Know, the podcast that dives headfirst into the surprising, the overlooked, and the misunderstood. Hosted by a curious duo and one man, one woman, we explore the world's most fascinating ideas hiding in plain sight. From science and religion to politics, psychology, history, and everything in between, we shine a light on the knowledge that's publicly available but rarely discussed. Each episode is a deep but never dull conversation that challenges assumptions, sparks new perspectives, and reveals just how much more there is to know, especially about the things you didn't even know you were missing. Whether you're a skeptic, a seeker, or just someone who loves good conversation, this show will leave you thinking, questioning, and most importantly, knowing.
Welcome, curious minds. Today we're plunging into one of humanity's oldest, most profound mysteries. What truly happens when we die? What unfolds in those moments when the heart stops beating and the brain appears to, flatline. Our mission in this deep dive is to explore the fascinating, sometimes really bewildering world of near-death experiences, NDEs, right? We're going to try and blend these incredible, remarkably consistent personal accounts with the cutting-edge science, what's actually happening in the brain. Think of this as your shortcut, maybe, to understanding a topic that, let's face it, touches us all. And there's some truly surprising facts you might not expect.
Yeah, and it's a topic that science has, for a long time, largely kept at arm's length, often just dismissing NDEs as, hallucinations or simply strange anomalies of a dying brain. But things are changing as more and more people from really diverse backgrounds share their powerful stories. And as our scientific tools get more sophisticated, a clearer picture is emerging. A much more intriguing one, actually. What's happening in the dying brain, it turns out, is far more surprising, far more complex than we ever really thought possible.
Okay, so let's get into it. Let's unpack these experiences. We've looked at this huge compilation of near-death accounts, and the first thing that jumps out is just how similar they are. Eerily consistent. It's almost like everyone is, reading from the same script. Regardless of culture, age, beliefs, from your look at these personal journeys, what themes really stand out?
Well, what's truly fascinating, I think, is how consistently people describe something called a big life review. And this isn't just, your life flashing before your eyes like in the movies. It's profound, it's immersive. People don't just recall key moments, they actually relive them.
Relive them?
Critically, they relive them not just from their own viewpoint, but through the eyes, the feelings of everyone they interacted with. They describe feeling the emotional impact, the joy, the pain that their words and actions had on others.
Wow.
Yeah, and this often leads to this deep sense of regret for moments where they didn't choose love or kindness. And interestingly, this out-of-body state, despite maybe being overwhelming, is often described as feeling more real than everyday human life, like waking up.
More real. That's powerful. And it seems it's not just about looking back, right? There's this sense of a bigger plan, almost, a future blueprint. Many reports mention a pre-birth life plan.
Yes, exactly. And this raises a really big question. What if our lives are, in some way, purposefully chosen? NDers often report discovering that their birth circumstances, their parents, even major challenges were selected. Selected in advance for learning, for healing.
Selected. By whom or by what?
Well, some describe it almost like a spiritual role-playing game, where souls agree to their parts, their challenges, their lessons before, the curtain rises on this life. There's even one account from a woman who described remembering choosing really difficult experiences, like childhood abuse.
Choosing abuse, that's hard to grasp.
It is. But her understanding was that it was chosen with the intention of healing from it, and then having that healing ripple out to help others. It's a truly profound shift in perspective on hardship, isn't it?
Yeah.
Suggesting purpose, even in the darkest moments.
Definitely a shift. So purchase seems key. What about the overall emotional feeling of these experiences? Is all this profound weightiness, or are there other common emotions?
Well, connecting this to the bigger picture, the overwhelming presence of unconditional love and this complete absence of judgment on the other side that's reported almost universally.
Unconditional love.
Yes. Many describe it as a return to a true home, a place where they feel completely seen, accepted, loved for who they truly are. Earth, by comparison, is often seen more like a deployment station,
right,
or maybe a boot camp.
A boot camp.
Yeah, where souls come to learn and grow, to embody their true essence through duality. experiencing both extreme pain and profound joy, sometimes simultaneously. There's a really beautiful example, a man named Rob Gentile. During his NDE, he met the spirit of his daughter, who is nonverbal in this life.
Okay.
But in that state, she spoke clearly, beautifully to him, and it completely shifted his perception of her disability. It wasn't a burden. It was a source of immense love and wisdom for him. It just reshapes everything.
That's incredible. And beyond these really personal interactions, these accounts seem to hint at other sort of universal forces at play.
Yeah, they really do. They consistently underscore what some call the power of blessing. The idea that even small acts of kindness, a silent prayer, a kind word create these incredible waves of healing, ripples that resonate far beyond the moment.
So our intentions matter a lot.
Immensely. People realize the huge power their thoughts, words, intentions hold. And they also often report that time isn't linear there. Intentions can echo across it, maybe even affecting past events in some way we don't understand.
Wow, that's mind-bending.
It is. And another huge takeaway, incredibly common, relationships last beyond death. So many NDers encounter loved ones who've passed on, or they feel their continued presence through signs, synchronicities.
How do they communicate?
Often without words. Telepathically, maybe? Just a deep knowing, a feeling?
So the message seems to be we're not really alone in all this.
Absolutely not. Almost every account mentions guides. Beings described sometimes as soul mentors, old friends, wise elders. They seem to know your soul's mission.
Guides like angels?
Yeah.
Or something else?
The descriptions vary, but they don't seem to control things. They support, they nudge, remind, often communicating through intuition, that inner knowing, helping you stay on your perhaps pre-chosen path.
And that connects to soulmates, too.
Right, and that's related, this idea of soulmates, which aren't always romantic, by the way. Often they're members of soul families, groups that incarnate together in different roles, friends, family, sometimes even adversaries.
Adversaries.
Yes, all part of that pre-birth plan, seemingly, to help each other evolve and wake up. It suggests this really profound network of interconnectedness.
Okay, these stories are incredibly consistent. They're moving. They've clearly changed lives. But like you said, science struggled with them for ages, dismissed them.
Yeah.
What is the latest science telling us now? What's actually happening in the brain during these moments?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting, and it forces us to re-examine our traditional ideas about death. Recent research, especially looking at cardiac arrest patients, is revealing something quite unexpected. When someone's heart stops and their brain activity on an EEG, that's the electroencephalogram, goes flat, well, that's not always the complete end of the story.
Not the end, but a flatline EEG. Isn't that the definition of brain death, essentially?
It's been considered a major indicator, yes. But in some remarkable cases, during CPR, even up to an hour after the heart stops, the brain can suddenly burst back into activity. A flurry of electrical signals consistent with consciousness.
Up to an hour later, while CPR is happening. That's wild. So the brain isn't just shutting down passively.
It seems not, or at least not always immediately or irreversibly in that initial phase. One big study observed that roughly 40% of patients who initially flatlined then showed this reemerging activity. Normal or near normal brainwaves.
And did those patients report anything?
Yes. Survivors from that group often describe these recalled experiences of death. And frequently, these involved a kind of moral evaluation of their life, very similar to the NDE life reviews we talked about.
So there's a potential link between that brain activity and the reported experience.
That's the leading hypothesis. The idea is that the brain's usual braking systems, the filters that limit our everyday consciousness so we can function, might get removed during dying.
Braking systems, filters, like...
Think about it. Our brain filters out tons of sensory input and memory constantly, right? So we can focus. But maybe in dying, those filters lift. It's like, imagine your consciousness usually looks through a small window.
Okay.
But suddenly, that window expands, becomes panoramic. You get unfiltered access to everything, all thoughts, all memories, a vast ocean of consciousness all at once.
That's a powerful analogy. Okay, that helps visualize it. And there was a specific case, wasn't there? Patient 1. A young woman monitored as life support was withdrawing. What did that show?
Right, patient 1. Those findings were, frankly, almost entirely unexpected. They really could rewrite our understanding of the dying process. As she passed away, as oxygen was cut off, her brain, particularly in areas considered the hot zone for consciousness, it didn't just fade out.
It didn't. What happened?
Instead, it showed this dramatic surge of high-frequency gamma waves. They became 11 to 12 times higher than her baseline levels before.
Gamma waves. Those are linked to high-level processing, right? Like focus, memory.
Exactly. Intense conscious awareness, vivid dreams, peak cognitive function. It was like her brain went into hyperdrive. Intense synchronization of brain waves lasting for several minutes after her heart stopped.
Hyperdrive. A final burst of consciousness. So what parts of her brain were talking to each other during this surge?
Well, what's fascinating is that areas tied to conscious experience, vivid dreaming, memory formation, they were all in close, intense communication. Even parts linked to empathy showed activity.
Empathy, too.
Yeah. It fundamentally challenges that old belief that brain activity just plummets and stops right after clinical death. It suggests the brain is surprisingly resilient to oxygen loss, and that maybe death is far more alive than we ever imagined. There's a complex internal world still active for a time.
Okay, so this obviously opens up different ways to interpret all this, doesn't it? You've got some scientists, the physicalists, who say, look, it's all biological. Complex hallucinations from a dying brain.
Right, that's one perspective. The brain under stress, firing off randomly, creating illusions.
But then you have others, maybe parapsychologists, arguing consciousness might exist outside the brain.
Yeah.
And they point to those rare stories, right? People claiming they saw things during their NDE they couldn't possibly have seen physically.
Yes, the veridical accounts. That's the other side of the coin. Cases like the famous one about the patient seeing a specific shoe on a hospital window ledge while they were supposedly clinically dead.
Have those held up scientifically?
Well, that's the issue. While those stories are compelling, they haven't consistently withstood strict scientific scrutiny. It's very hard to get rigorous empirical proof that someone is accurately observing their physical surroundings when their brain is confirmed to be truly inactive, detached from the senses. There just isn't enough solid evidence for that specific claim yet.
Okay.
However, and this is crucial, the unexpected brain activity we are seeing, like in patient 1, that completely shifts the debate anyway. It forces everyone, regardless of their stance, to admit something incredibly complex is happening within the physical brain itself during dying.
It's not just fading to black.
Exactly. It's not silent darkness. There's this surprising, intense electrical symphony going on for a while.
So is this changing anything in practice? In hospitals?
Yeah.
How we treat patients at the end of life?
It really should be. I mean, these findings strongly suggest clinicians should maybe treat patients getting CPR as if they could be awake, potentially aware. That's a huge shift from assuming unconsciousness.
That has massive implications for care.
Absolutely. And beyond that, it opens up new avenues for research into treating severe brain damage. It shows the brain has a surprising robustness, this resilience to deprivation that we didn't fully appreciate. There's even that experimental research, remember the Yale study? Decapitated pig brains showing metabolic activity, synapses firing hours later.
Right, I remember reading about that. It's unsettling but fascinating.
It hints at a future where maybe even what we call brain death might one day be reversible, which of course raises enormous ethical and philosophical questions, doesn't it? About the very definition of life and death. Where is that line, really?
Yeah, big questions. So bringing it all together, what does this mean for us listening right now? Whether you lean more spiritual or purely scientific, this deep dive into NDEs, it gives us some really profound insights, doesn't it? It challenges our basic assumptions about life, death, the boundary between them. It shows the dying brain isn't silent. It's a hub of intense activity.
I think so. And connecting it to the bigger picture, it strongly suggests consciousness might just be far more complex, far more resilient than our current models understand. But regardless of the exact mechanism, brain surge, external consciousness, whatever it is, the consistent messages from these hundreds of NDE accounts, they remain incredibly potent lessons for this life.
Which are?
The profound importance of unconditional love, kindness, purpose, connection. They powerfully remind us that we seem to be deeply interconnected and maybe not truly alone, guided by something larger.
You know, it strikes me that the real pull, the real attraction of near-death experiences isn't just wondering about what might happen after we die. It's about what they show us is possible here, right now, how we could live.
Precisely. That's the key takeaway, perhaps. Maybe we don't need to wait for a near-death experience to really wake up to what matters most. What if you lived every single day knowing that unconditional love surrounds you, that your smallest actions, your intentions ripple out, that you might have guides, intuition, supporting your unique life plan?
Think about that. What if you chose to live today, right now, as if those profound lessons from the edge of death were already true for you? Before you ever had to experience it yourself, what would change?
Well, that's a wrap. Hope you liked the episode. Don't miss out on new episodes of You Don't Know, You Don't Know. New episodes every week. Like and subscribe.